Hey, what's going on, people? This is Earl Tenchi, and I am back for another TMNT Rant Rave review for this week's movie event episode. Yes, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it what Nickelodeon was calling it, except I'm not gonna call it by Booyaka Showdown. I'm just gonna call it Showdown, really. Um, all right. So this was a pretty good way to end the season. Oh, sad face. But you know what? The new season's coming out this fall, and they're promising more mutants. They're promising Casey Jones. They're promising more villains. You know, the story. You know, more story arcs going to continue. It was a pretty fast-paced episode. Really, not that much pausing. Um, there was a few, but not that much. So it starts out with the Krang waiting on a message from their leader, Krang Prime. I believe who was voicing her, Roseanne Barr, I think. I don't know, but she did a pretty good job. So it looks like, you know, it looks like the Krang. Obviously they get their orders from Krang Prime, and her main objective was to get April O'Neil because for something that was still wasn't explained, her mental energy is what they're after. Her mental energy is more in more in tune with things. Oh wait, no, it was explained then. Um, she has her mental energy is different, and it's something that that they want to power what looks like their mind, their hive brain, their hive mind that they got going on here. And we got to see the Technodrome, and it looked exactly like I thought it was going to. Paying homage to the original series, of course, making it round, making it very metallic looking. The only thing it didn't have really was that giant eyeball looking thing on the front, which was cool. Because if you've ever seen the crossover film Turtles Forever that had the year 2000 version of the Turtles alongside the 1987 version of the Turtles, their version of Shredder, the 2000s version of Shredder, ends up, recreating the Technodrome, and it looks all futuristic. The eye looks like one huge laser beam looking thing, kind of like the Death Star from Star Wars, only more metallic, more metallic looking and a lot more deadly. So the turtles go out on their mission. Like I said, very fast paced. They do a quick montage, a quick weapons montage. Metalheads involved, and obviously Donnie's got a better hang on Metalhead because while they're in the middle of a fight with the Krang, they fake him out I shouldn't even say the middle, during the beginning of the fight. They smash the Shell Razor into TCRI. You see that one Krang droid that tried to capture April in her school a few episodes back. She doesn't say anything, but she's basically commanding the other Krang droids, and they're blasting. They're trying to blast their way through the Shell Razor. And next thing you know, Metalhead comes up and Cole Cox one in the back. Next thing you know, a fight ensues. He's like, "I see you," flamethrower, kick, punch, all that. I'm like, okay, he's got a better hang on this, obviously, because we've had a few episodes for him to tinker with it. I'm glad that they uh, just about everybody that they've encountered before, well, people wise, have made a cameo in this. Dog Pound and Fit, and Zever, aka Fish Legs. Who else? The Purple Dragons had a small, cameo in this. The news reporter with that incredibly long name had a cameo in this, saying they're invading, which they were. It looked like a straight up invasion from a sci-fi movie with these Pokeball-looking pods that they were using to get their human specimens to experiment on. They captured April and her father. You find out what's going on with her father, which we all saw coming. He was being mind controlled. Now, at first, I thought he was another version of a Krang droid in disguise. But no, they just they're mind controlling him. The Mausers make an appearance in this. They don't go after Splinter, which is what I was surprised about. And also, April mentions, yes, I'm kind of going all over the place, but April mentions that she's concerned because Splinter doesn't want to go with the Turtles. They're risking their lives, and Splinter's just sitting on the sidelines. And he's like, I don't have to explain myself to a child, right? Obviously he's scared. Obviously he's scared, but he does eventually go out on the surface after finding out that April was captured, and then he combats his old friend, the Shredder. So we get a pretty nice fight scene between and a flashback scene and some banter between these two great martial arts masters, and and yes, their fight was over Tang Shin, over Splinter's wife. That's the entire thing behind Shredder's vendetta. And you know what? Even though if you're a big, if you know the 1980s movie, as well as the as well as later incarnations of the Turtles, including the comics, you'll know that's how it was always supposed to be. But it's like, man, being in love with someone can make you do crazy things, or thinking that you were in love with someone because Shredder held this grudge against Splinter for years, 15 years. Who does that? And because of that, he got burned. Has to live with that. Has to live with the scars. It's all over his face. His eyes blown out. He's wearing a metal mask. He's evil, but we got to see Splinter kick butt and take names. He took down a bunch of foot soldiers, and it was awesome to see him face his enemy head on. Because basically he was afraid. He was afraid. He was it would seem like he was sad, mad, afraid, ashamed, all the above. But we got to see him kick butt and take names when it counted, and that was for one of his students and one of his friends, someone that he was protecting, as well as fighting for his sons. Even though Splinter, first and foremost, is not just a sensei. He's a father. He's a father to the Turtles, and he's sort of like a friend and kind of like a surrogate father to April now. And I can't wait to see how she develops, and how this whole thing with the Krang, because that part of the story is still going. I mean, yeah, they defeated the Krang. It was a pretty nice sci-fi action thriller, especially especially in one particular scene in the Technodrome where there's no gravity, and it's but that's not over yet. And now you got the Technodrome grounded, much like in the 1987 series. In the 1987 series, they were underwater for a minute, and also at one point they do get trapped in Dimension X and not able to get back to Earth. So, but in this case, they're just trapped underwater, but everything is still, everything is, for the most part, functional. I guess we're waiting for the next season to come out and see what they got cooking up. But from what I've seen from previews of the next season, we're gonna get a whole bunch of mutations, bigger story. Casey Jones is making an appearance, like I said before. A little side note: when I saw the appearance of Casey Jones on Facebook, people were complaining about the fact that he looked younger, and looked more like just like a kid on a bike wearing a bandana, than the Casey Jones that kind of resembles the Punisher. That kind of has like a little bit of the Punisher in him. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the original Casey Jones was inspired by the Punisher. I mean, if you don't believe me, look at his masks and look at his attitude. But in this case, they aged him down, and according to some footage from this year's Comic-Con, he eventually does turn into the Casey Jones that we all know. But since he's aged down, we'll get to see him develop into that character. So that should be fun. But all these mutations coming out, it's just going to be awesome. This, I believe, was a pretty good, if not perfect, but pretty good way to end off the the first season of the new Ninja Turtles incarnation. And I have to say, I've already watched it twice, and I'm probably gonna watch it a few more times before I delete it off my DVR list. But tell me what y'all think. What did you think of the fact that did you think it was fast paced? Was that a positive or a negative for you personally? I think it was perfect the way the way that it was. How do you feel about the bout between Shredder and Splinter? The fact that Shredder that he just found out that Splinter was a mutant, and you find out one other important thing while they were fighting. What do you think about the Turtles and how they handled their mission? What do you think of Leonardo? His leadership skills. I mean, he was willing to sacrifice himself to get this mission done, and I have to commend him for that. I mean, it takes a lot to even put yourself on the line like that. As young as young as they are, but it's dope to see. I mean, they're taking this seriously. And what do you think? What are your predictions for next season? The fall is coming up soon, but when you're anticipating a show, especially one that ended on a good note, it seems like it takes longer for the premiere to get here. But what do you think of the next season? What are your predictions for the next season? Who do you if you saw who who's going to appear in the next season? Who are you most looking forward to seeing? Who do you want to see come back from the first season? I vote for the Rat King, personally. I want to see Rat King come back with a vengeance. That right now is probably my favorite villain outside of the Shredder. But what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, love, and never be normal.